Chapter 159. It should be said that Deng Ya, Zhu Peng and Helian Yun's alchemy level was still good. At least the control of the fire had reached the peak level. Tens of thousands of kilograms of medicinal materials were condensed into a fist-sized mass, but there was no sign of burning. The reason why the remaining mass was black was because it was still unable to condense the pill. Now the dregs in everyone's eyes were still hot, but except for Yang Chen, no one would look at it. Everyone was just immersed in the depression of not succeeding after a long time of hard work. For a while, no one spoke, and the scene was lifeless. Yang Chen took a few steps forward and walked to the side of the pill furnace. He lowered his head and began to carefully observe the black dregs. His actions also attracted the attention of everyone, and all eyes were focused on him in an instant. Why, do you still want to say what caused the refining to fail? Helian Yun and Yang Chen didn't deal with each other. At this time, he was in a bad mood, so he directly said sarcastically, "I don't know, what advice does Grandmaster Yang have?" Other people's mood was equally uncomfortable. As soon as Helian Yun's words came out, it seemed to resonate with everyone. Although no one spoke, but the gazes of 4 Yuanying stage masters who were about to ascend to the Deshang stage were enough to make any cultivator in the mortal world tremble. Yang Chen didn't seem to feel the pressure of everyone at all. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, he stretched out a finger and inserted it into the black dregs. His spiritual awareness probed out and began to feel the situation at a close distance. His actions made several people look at each other. No one knew what Yang Chen was doing. But one thing was the same for everyone. No one felt that Yang Chen could do anything to these dregs. He was a junior in the foundation stage. It was not worth mentioning in front of the heaven-seizing pill, even if it was just the dregs of the heaven-seizing pill. There is still hope. After feeling for a while, Yang Chen suddenly spat out a sentence that made everyone shocked. There is still hope? What does that mean? Everyone's eyes once again gathered on Yang Chen. This time, it was not the kind of dissatisfaction before, but surprise. Shameless boasting. He Lianyun shouted directly, "Who do you think you are? Do you really think you're Master Yang?" Not only He Lianyun, but even Deng Ya and Zhu Peng had gloomy expressions when they heard Yang Chen's words. Even the 3 nascent soul stage experts couldn't do anything, so what was a junior in the foundation establishment stage jumping out to do? Yang Chen ignored Helian Yun's words and took out a jade bottle from his body. He opened the bottle and was about to pour its contents onto the black dregs. "What are you going to do?" Helian Yun was furious. He shouted again, "Can you afford to destroy all of this?" "Destroy?" Yang Chen's hand stopped. He turned his head to look at Helian Yun and asked with a strange expression, "Could it be that Senior Helian still has some tricks you haven't used? After you..." As he spoke, he extended his hand and made an inviting gesture. What other tricks did He Lianyun have? If he had, he would have used them all just now. It was just that he used all his skills and couldn't make the heaven-seizing pill condense. Now that Yang Chen asked him to do it, how could he dare to come out and embarrass himself again? If everyone has no good way, then I will try my way. Yang Chen turned to Elder Wu Xiong this time and said very seriously, "Elder Wu, this junior was reckless just now. I don't know if this junior can try it." What else could Wu Xiong have to say? At this time, it was a desperate situation. If he was lucky, maybe Yang Chen could come up with some results. After nodding, Wu Xiong remembered that it seemed that during the refining process, Yang Chen had raised several opinions, but no one paid attention to it at that time. Could it be that the problem was with those? Wu Xiong couldn't help but look forward to it again. Did Yang Chen really have a way? You must know that the kind of superb fire control ability that Yang Chen had shown before, even Deng Ya, who had the highest cultivation among the 3 alchemists, could not achieve it. Since Yang Chen could show miracles in fire control, maybe he could also show miracles in alchemy. Yang Chen's hand shook gently, and a pile of fine powder fell from the jade bottle and fell directly on the black dregs. It was strange to say that as soon as the dregs touched these powders, they seemed to change color immediately. The black began to fade slowly and slowly returned to the green color of the emerald jade Ganoderma. This magical scene made everyone, including He Lianyun, forget the dispute. Everyone looked at Yang Chen's movements intently, and their hearts began to look forward to it. The profound spirit furnace appeared in the hands of Yang Chen in an instant. Yang Chen's other hand was like a big spoon, wrapping the green dregs and slowly throwing them into the profound spirit furnace. "Use my pill furnace, the effect is better." Deng Ya saw it and immediately said. Her purple alchemy furnace was several levels higher than the profound spirit furnace. Looking at the treasure light emitted by Yang Chen's profound spirit furnace, she couldn't look at it anymore. The predecessor's pill furnace, this younger generation junior can't control it. Yang Chen would not give the opportunity to others to take the heaven-seizing pill out of the furnace. The profound spirit furnace needed to accumulate slowly, and the heaven-seizing pill was the highest level of medicinal pills in the mortal world. It could definitely make the medicinal qi of the profound spirit furnace accumulate to the point of making people drool. Moreover, with Yang Chen's current cultivation base, he really couldn't control the magic weapon of a master of the Yuanying stage. The powder that Yang Chen added was refined from the poisonous flood dragon Niden, which was specially used to nourish the poisonous flood dragon true spirit and eliminate the hidden dangers of the poisonous flood dragon true spirit. The weak pill spirit suddenly had a nourishing help, and the time began to slowly recover in the profound spirit furnace. Aware of this change, Yang Chen took a long breath. The pill spirit was weak, which was the biggest reason for the failure of this refining, but now as long as the pill spirit could still recover, there was still a chance. Another factor that affected the condensation of the pill was that the basic medicinal pill had yin and yang 5 elements, and there was a problem in the regulation and balance. The 3 alchemists were all cultivators of the fire attribute. Although they were familiar with the 5 elements, they were not like Yang Chen, who had all the 5 elements and all the attributes of the spirit root were very balanced. In the process of integration, it was inevitable that there would be some slight deviations. What Yang Chen had to do now was to correct these deviations, and then nourish the pill spirit to the realm of heaven-seizing pill. At that time, there would be no current problems. Only the powerful to the extreme pill spirit, the medicinal pills refined were worthy of being called the real heaven-seizing pill. Chapter 160. To adjust the yin and yang balance of the 5 elements, Yang Chen only needs to inject his own spiritual power into the profound spirit furnace. The profound spirit furnace was first refined by Yang Chen with the yin and yang 5 elements secret art. It had the attributes of the 5 elements, but the adjustment was a little deviation. It did not take too much time for Yang Chen. The trouble was the nourishment of the pill spirit. The whole jade bottle was full of medicinal powder to nourish the pill spirit. Yang Chen divided it into 5 times and added all these medicinal powders. Others looked at this bottle of medicinal powder, but no one asked for it. Yang Chen was just a junior who had just built the foundation. Once he was disturbed and delayed the big event, it was not good. The problem of the medicinal powder could be asked later. After 5 times, the pill spirit was no longer so weak, it was not so dying, and it began to have a trace of vitality. The medicinal powder was originally scraped from the poisonous flood dragon's Niden. It was the same source as the pill spirit, and it was naturally the best medicine to nourish it. At this point, the pill spirit could already absorb its own spiritual power to recover. It's just that the nourishment and growth of the pill spirit also needs the support of a strong spiritual power. At this point, Yang Chen was not polite at all. He directly greeted Fan Shan, who had been anxiously waiting for the result. "Senior Fan, inject spiritual power into the pill furnace." Fan Shan promised and rushed over directly. His hands were pressed against the profound spirit furnace in front of Yang Chen, which was as big as a wine jar, and he carefully inputted spiritual power. At first, he was careful not to break the pill furnace with too much spiritual power, but soon Fan Shan found that the profound spirit furnace was like a bottomless pit. No matter how much spiritual power was input, it disappeared without a trace in an instant. At the moment he asked Yang Chen with his eyes. Yang Chen just nodded slightly and gave him a reassuring expression. Fan Shan began to inject spiritual power madly. "Several seniors, the input of spiritual power needs a lot, and I also asked the seniors to take turns to replace it." Here Fan Shan was inputting spiritual power, and Yang Chen was greeting several other Yuanying stage alchemists. They had just completed the refining. Although they failed, they were also exhausted. Yang Chen's words were to remind them to recover quickly and use them as laborers. If you input spiritual power, this old man will bear it. When Wu Xiong saw it, he hurriedly opened his mouth. Among them, the one with the most powerful spiritual power was Wu Xiong, the master of the Deshang stage. Yang Chen did not use his great master, but he madly squeezed other people, and even Wu Xiong was a little bit unsightly. Elder Wu, don't be impatient, you have to be patient. You have to be patient. You have to be patient. You have to wait for Yang Chen to be patient. Wu Xiong said nothing. The three alchemists, even he Lianing stage Yuaning Yun and Yuaning stage Yang Qi Yang, Chen Yuaning stage Chen Qi Yang Chen Qi and Yang, Tu, and Yang Qi Yang, Chen Yang, and Qi Yang Chen Yang Chen, the four Yuaning stage masters, just input spiritual power into the profound spirit furnace. They took turns back and forth 4 times. At this time, everyone had already felt a powerful momentum coming from the profound spirit furnace. It seemed that the spirit of the poisonous flood dragon had completely recovered and was roaring and rolling in the profound spirit furnace. In fact, this was indeed the case in the profound spirit furnace. The spirit, which had almost completely recovered its strength, was struggling wildly. It was just that the spirit had no original body, and it was wrapped in the medicinal liquid of the heaven-seizing pill. It had to be attached to the medicinal pill. Under the control of Yang Chen, with the continuous spiritual power from the profound spirit furnace, it began to slowly integrate with the medicinal liquid. The profound spirit furnace made a violent tremor, which made people really worried that the next moment, this seemingly very low-level pill furnace would be shaken apart. Fortunately, this scene has not appeared, but the tremor was getting more and more intense, and there was already a crazy roar in everyone's ears. This sound came into everyone's ears. In addition to being puzzled, there was only shock. This roar was getting louder and louder, and finally it seemed to be produced in the bottom of everyone's heart, causing everyone to tremble from the bottom of their hearts. Thinking of the original form of the pill spirit, everyone had no doubt that this was the legendary dragon roar. Refining a medicinal pill, there could be a dragon roar. Even if it was a few Yuaning stage alchemists, they couldn't help but be awed. Looking at Yang Chen, the younger generation junior who had just reached the foundation stage, still seemed to be unaware of the pill furnace at the moment. Several Yuaning stage masters had a feeling of being inferior. The dragon roar was getting stronger and stronger, and there was a trace of abnormality in the sky. A group of dark clouds began to gather on the top of everyone's head, and the whole sky became dark almost in a moment. A bolt of lightning began to flow on the top of everyone's head, and the rumbling sound made people seem familiar. This is? Tribulation Cloud? In addition to Yang Chen, the worst was also the Yuaning stage. When the Jiedan stage was promoted to the Yuaning stage, it was natural to pass the first of the 3 disasters, the Thunder Disaster, also called the Thunder Tribulation. The situation in front of them was similar to when they passed the Thunder Tribulation. Who was going to cross the tribulation? The Yuaning stage masters did not need to cross the tribulation, not to mention Wu Xiong. Was there someone else in the manner who broke through the Jiedan stage bottleneck and wanted to enter the Yuaning stage? But Wu Xiong did not show the slightest expression. Was it Yang Chen? Impossible. Yang Chen had just reached the foundation stage. How could he cross the Thunder Tribulation so quickly? But if there was no one else, could it be? Everyone's eyes began to stare at the profound spirit furnace in the hands of Yang Chen, and the dragon roar was getting louder and louder. Was it the medicinal pill inside that was going to cross the tribulation? Would the medicinal pill also cross the tribulation? At the thought of this, everyone was shocked. But at the same time of shock, they also began to look forward to it. Yes, this was the spirit that could be called seizing the heaven. When the pill was completed, God would even send a tribulation. Only such a medicinal pill was called seizing the heaven pill. What they had refined in the first half of their lives was simply bullshit. Wu Xiong looked at all this with surprise and joy, and his heart was surging. The process of refining the heaven-seizing pill was simply like a raging sea, with great ups and downs. He was originally full of confidence, but in the end he was lazy and disheartened. He did not expect the mountain road to turn around, and it became an all-powerful appearance. Now Wuxiong didn't even know how to describe his mood at the moment. All of this seemed to be brought to him by Yang Chen. Now Wuxiong admired his decision to insist on bringing Yang Chen at that time. How could he have such foresight? Suddenly invited Yang Chen, a junior who was still a disciple of the qi refining stage at that time, but later he brought a surprise to himself. Elder Wu, be careful. Yang Chen suddenly reminded him, when the pill is completed, Elder Wu, you have to guard the heaven-seizing pill with all your strength. After the tribulation, if you are not careful, the heaven-seizing pill will escape, and it is impossible for Elder Wu to trap it. Success or failure, it's all in this one move. Chapter 161. It was unheard of for the medicinal pill to cross the tribulation, and the medicinal pill could still escape, which has subverted the understanding of the three alchemists present in alchemy. It's not that what they have learned is wrong. It's that the heaven-seizing pill is too heaven-defying. It's so heaven-defying that it's almost not a medicinal pill that should exist in the mortal world. When the ancestor of the Xiang family successfully refined the heaven-seizing pill last time, he didn't know why he didn't record the following refining methods, not to mention these heavenly phenomena after the success of the refining and the escape of the tribulation. If Yang Chen hadn't heard of it in the spiritual world, it was estimated that he would be like them at most, thinking that the refining had failed. It had to be said that the level of the three senior alchemists was still there, especially in the grasp of the fire, but unfortunately, refining the heaven-seizing pill could not only be successful by relying on the fire. In the history of the mortal world, there was only one record of refining the heaven-seizing pill. If this time was counted, it was only the second time, and it was not yet well known. Wuxiong was surprised and happy, but he did not dare to relax. Yang Chen said clearly that this heaven-seizing pill could run away. If it really came to this point and the medicinal pill escaped, it would be the biggest joke in the world. The rumbling thunder was getting closer and closer, and the profound spirit furnace in Yang Chen's hand was shaking more and more severely. Looking at the current situation, Yang Chen could hardly suppress it. But no one dared to volunteer to replace Yang Chen. At this point, Deng Ya, Zhu Peng and Helian Yun had almost become bystanders. They were afraid that their carelessness would lead to failure on the verge of success. Be careful, the pill is done. Everyone's attention was just focused on the tribulation clouds that gathered outside. The extreme shock even made them forget to observe Yang Chen's method of condensing the pill and collecting the pill. When they heard Yang Chen's words, they immediately realized what they had just missed and couldn't help but regret it again and again. Everyone's technique was the secret of the sect. Without a certain friendship, it was impossible to communicate at will. If they missed it this time, they didn't know when they would have the opportunity to see it again. However, this was obviously not the time for regret. Everyone's eyes were wide open, waiting to see what the newly formed heaven-seizing pill looked like. The lid of the profound spirit furnace suddenly flew up high, and a blue light rose from the furnace, and then a blue shadow rushed out of the furnace and flew directly into the sky. Wuxiong was already prepared. His figure flashed and he flew out, closely following Qing Ying. However, he was smart enough to not do anything at this time. Wuxiong knew very well that during the tribulation, no matter how strong the restrictions he set up, he would not be able to go against the tribulation of God. Everyone could clearly see that the green shadow was actually a small green dragon. When it entered the profound spirit furnace, it was a group of black dregs. When it came out, it was a cyan dragon shape. How was this done? When they saw this dragon shape, Deng Ya, Zhu Peng, and Helian Yun couldn't wait to slap themselves in the face a few times. Such an important method of condensing the pill was missed in front of their eyes. However, it was too late to regret it now, and they really couldn't care less. The never-before-seen medicinal pill tribulation was in front of them. Who could put down all their thoughts and only regret and not pay attention to it? Kacha, a lightning flashed, and the lightning hit the dragon-shaped green shadow in the air. In the dazzling lightning, the dragon-shaped green shadow seemed to be bathed in the baptism of thunder and lightning, and there was no change. The violent thunderbolts flashed at least 9 times, each time brighter and thicker than the last. The thickest thunderbolt was as thick as a person's waist, and almost all of it had condensed into a liquid lightning. However, under the crazy washing of thunder and lightning, the heaven-seizing pill did not change at all. Instead, it released more and more powerful medicinal qi, as if it had also obtained great benefits from the baptism of thunder and lightning. After the thunder and lightning, the thunder tribulation dissipated, and the tribulation clouds in the sky disappeared in an instant, and the sky became bright again. Wu Xiong's servants in the villa could be regarded as an eye-opener today. Things like crossing the thunder tribulation could actually let them watch from the sidelines. It was simply a lifelong benefit. Just when everyone was ecstatic, they soon found that they were happy a little too early. After the heaven-seizing pill passed the thunder tribulation, it looked more petite and exquisite. Its body was slightly smaller than before, but the medicinal qi was more powerful. Just hovering in the air for a while, Wu Xiong found that a yin fire had been generated from the bottom of the heaven-seizing pill and began to burn the heaven-seizing pill. 3 disasters, thunder tribulation, yin fire, and wind, cultivators couldn't avoid it. The Jiedan stage had to cross the thunder tribulation, while the Yuanying stage had to cross the fire tribulation to enter the Deshang stage, and the Deshang stage had to cross the wind tribulation to ascend to the spiritual world. This was the case for cultivators, and it was unexpected that this heaven-seizing pill was also the same. Deng Ya, Zhu Peng, Helian Yun, and Fan Shan all widened their eyes and stared closely at the heaven-seizing pill. The yin fire was burning, it could actually happen in front of them, this was simply a gift from heaven. Even if their current cultivation base was not yet there, they could see this scene, and when they crossed the tribulation in the future, they would have a little more confidence. For Wu Xiong, the yin fire was nothing. He was already a master of the Deshang stage and had already passed the yin fire tribulation, but looking at the heaven-seizing pill tribulation, he still had a lot of expectations in his heart. The yin fire was also 9 times, silent, shadowless and invisible yin fire. Everyone could only feel it by looking at the shape of the heaven-seizing pill. Every time it was burned, the heaven-seizing pill seemed to become smaller. After 9 times, it was only the size of a plum. Elder Wu, when refining, there was a congenital deficiency, maybe the final wind tribulation needs the elder's help. Yang Chen below suddenly shouted at Wu Xiong in the air. This sentence made everyone stare at the heaven-seizing pill almost crazy. After passing the wind tribulation, one could directly ascend. Which cultivator present, including Wu Xiong, had seen ascension with their own eyes? This was an experience that couldn't be asked for. Everyone who heard this almost trembled with excitement, and they couldn't wait to fly up and observe it at a close distance. Of course, they also heard Yang Chen's cry of congenital deficiency, and the 3 alchemy masters wished they could bury themselves in the ground in shame. Congenital deficiency was naturally because there was a problem with their refining method, and in the end, it was remedied by Yang Chen. Thinking of the contempt they had when they first saw Yang Chen, the 3 of them were ashamed. Wu Xiong was also excited in the sky. The last of the 3 disasters, the wind tribulation, he would soon face it, but he didn't expect that he could see this kind of tribulation in advance on a medicinal pill. This had an extraordinary significance for his ascension. Chapter 162. It was not enough to describe Wu Xiong's current concentration. His naked eyes and various senses of the body were all concentrated on the small dragon-shaped pill between his hands. His spiritual awareness was fully opened, shrouding the space of a foot. Nothing that happened inside could be compared to Wu Xiong's perception. His whole body was trembling involuntarily, excited, waiting for the arrival of the wind tribulation. Any other spiritual awareness that dared to approach this side to investigate thoroughly would be unceremoniously bounced back by Wu Xiong. At this time, he would not allow anyone to interfere with his opportunity to feel the wind tribulation. The 4 people below also knew that the opportunity was rare, and they also knew Wu Xiong's mood, so everyone just tentatively swept with their spiritual awareness and stood there obediently, staring at the heaven-seizing pill with their naked eyes, but no longer probing with their spiritual awareness. When the wind appeared, it was always silent, everyone could not see anything clearly, Only Wu Xiong could feel it. The wind seemed to have no source, it appeared directly inside the heaven-seizing pill. If Wu Xiong's spiritual awareness had not wrapped all the space, he would not have been able to detect it. The plum-sized body of the heaven-seizing pill, in front of everyone's eyes, suddenly shrank again, and Wu Xiong's brows wrinkled. The wind in the records blew into the 6 internal organs, through the dantian, through the 9 orifices, the bones and flesh thinned, and the body disintegrated. Now that the shape of the heaven-seizing pill was smaller, didn't it just reflect the described bones and flesh thinned, and the body disintegrated? Yang Chen said that this heaven-seizing pill was congenitally deficient. It seemed to be very reasonable. However, for the time being, the heaven-seizing pill did not seem to have any problems. Wu Xiong could feel it. However, he was still extremely cautious, because the second gust of black wind was already approaching. The second wind, the third wind. Every time it experienced the wind, the heaven-seizing pill became smaller. Under Wu Xiong's careful care, after the 6th wind, the heaven-seizing pill finally reached its limit. The shape of the dragon at this moment underwent a complete change. After the 6th wind, the little azure dragon squirmed like a living thing, quickly curled up into a ball, and really turned into a round pill. On the surface of the pill, a flying azure dragon was entrenched above the ball, as if it was painted on. But Wu Xiong knew that this was the pill veins of the heaven-seizing pill. The reason why it had such a shape was related to the poison flood dragon pill spirit used. The pill spirit's consciousness had been completely erased, leaving only the most basic will to resist the heavenly tribulation and ascend. This was the most important reason why the heaven-seizing pill was called the heaven-seizing pill. The only pity was that he had only withstood 6 tornadoes. There were still 3 that he couldn't withstand. However, the heavenly tribulation would not stop just because the heaven-seizing pill had reached its limit, and the 7th black wind appeared right after. Wu Xiong, who was already prepared, finally came in handy at this time. A powerful spiritual power immediately entered the heaven-seizing pill and began to resist the black wind. This was an experience that Wu Xiong yearned for even in his dreams. Replacing the heaven-seizing pill to endure a few gale tribulations that could not be considered as giving his all. This would be of great benefit to his future ascension. Just the experience of fighting against dark wind was enough for Wu Xiong to completely accept the result of the heaven-seizing pill being a complete failure. As soon as there was spiritual resistance, dark wind immediately turned to attack the owner of the spiritual power. Following that spiritual power, it directly drilled into Wu Xiong's body. Wu Xiong started resisting the dark wind with all his strength in the air. At the same time, he did his best to experience the feeling of the dark wind wreaking havoc in his body. The dark wind tribulation that targeted the heaven-seizing pill was definitely not as powerful as the dark wind tribulation that targeted Wu Xiong himself. When this small dark wind blew through Wu Xiong's internal organs, apart from resisting, Wu Xiong even felt something different. It was the feeling of going through the dark wind and cleansing his body. Perhaps this was one of the benefits of going through the heaven rank, but it was now benefiting Wu Xiong, who should have been going through the more powerful dark wind tribulation. After resisting the dark wind with all his strength, Wu Xiong almost laughed out loud. This was the 7th dark wind, followed by the even stronger 8th and 9th dark wind tribulation. Wu Xiong resisted the last 3 dark wind tribulations and experienced 3 dark wind tribulations in advance. At the same time, his body was strengthened to a certain extent by the dark wind. Just as Wu Xiong resisted the 9th dark wind tribulation, the heaven-seizing pill suspended in the air suddenly trembled and disappeared from the eyes of the people watching on the ground with lightning speed. This caused the people below to cry out in alarm. At the same time, it also made a few people even more shocked. Such a heaven-defying pill could actually escape after coming out of the furnace? Wu Xiong's figure also disappeared. How could Wu Xiong, who had been on guard, let the heaven-seizing pill escape? In the blink of an eye, Wu Xiong's figure appeared in another direction, holding a finger-sized trembling cyan pill in his hand. In front of everyone's eyes, Wu Xiong continuously wrapped the heaven-seizing pill with several talismans. This was not all. Wu Xiong then took out a small jade box, which was engraved with sealing arrays. After carefully putting the pill wrapped in the talismans inside, Wuxiong closed the jade box. Just when everyone thought that Wuxiong would come down immediately, Wuxiong seemed to think of something in the air. He shook his head slightly and took out a slightly larger jade box from the Qianquan bag. It was also engraved with a ceiling formation, and he put the small jade box in it. That was not all. Wuxiong, who was in the air, did not even land. He directly took out a whole piece of jade in the air and made several jade boxes of different sizes on the spot. After engraving several ceiling formations on each of the boxes, he put these jade boxes into the boxes one by one according to the order of size. Seeing this scene, everyone except for Yang Chen was dumbfounded. The more serious Wuxiong was, the more heaven-defying the heaven-seizing pill was. They even couldn't wait to see what this heaven-defying pill was like. Wuxiong slowly descended from the air in front of everyone. After landing, the huge jade box containing the heaven-seizing pill had been put into the Qianquan bag, which made everyone anxious. None of you can control this pill. Wuxiong smiled and shook his head as he explained. However, his words only made everyone's eyes burn with greed. Maybe you can ask little friend Yang what the problem is, isn't it? Wuxiong reminded everyone again, making several alchemists react immediately. However, before they could speak, Wuxiong said another sentence, but this sentence was directed at Helian Yun. Helian, if you are willing to bet, you must be willing to lose. Hand over your son's true fire. Before I ascend, I will find you other fire seeds. Chapter 163. The fact that Wuxiong wanted He Lianyun's true sunfire seed could only mean one thing. Wuxiong was extremely satisfied with Yang Chen's performance this time. Of course, asking He Lianyun to hand over his fire seed would definitely cause He Lianyun to be dissatisfied. He Lianyun was also a distinguished guest invited by Wuxiong. However, Wuxiong was indeed Wuxiong. He immediately thought of another solution. Before he ascended, he would find another fire seed for He Lianyun. The true sunfire was lost by He Lianyun. Although He Lianyun had always thought of using some other things in exchange for Yang Chen not wanting his fire seed, Wuxiong's words at this moment made all the various methods that He Lianyun had thought of go down the drain. However, Wuxiong's promise to find a new fire seed for him made He Lianyun feel a trace of gratitude despite his anger. Although immediately handing over the true sunfire would definitely cause his cultivation to drop a lot, with the experience of observing the pill tribulation at close range, coupled with Wuxiong's promise to find a new fire seed, as long as he obtained a fire seed, his cultivation could quickly recover. This was a good thing, so He Lianyun was very grateful. However, his emotions were immediately replaced by another emotion. If he did not have to hand over the true sunfire, and Wuxiong directly helped Yang Chen find another fire seed, wouldn't it be better? People were always greedy. If they could obtain something better, they would naturally not be satisfied with what they had in front of them. He Lianyun was like this. When Wuxiong provided a way for him to step down, and even with sufficient compensation he was still dissatisfied and wanted more. He Lianyun even began to hate Yang Chen a little. At this time, Yang Chen should have shown a respectful attitude towards a senior and immediately dissuade Wuxiong. He should have told Elder Wu that it was just a joke, and then everyone would laugh it off. But the damn Yang Chen did not do this. Instead, he looked at him with a smile, as if it was only natural. Yang Chen's annoying smile was like a shackle on He Lianyun, making him extremely uncomfortable. At this moment, he had completely forgotten how calm and unscrupulous he was when he wanted to seize Yang Chen's fire seed. As the great elder of the immortal falling abyss, Wuxiong usually meant what he said. Even though he was no longer in the immortal falling abyss, this was still the case. After Wuxiong finished speaking, even if Deng Ya and Zhu Peng were extremely curious, they could only wait until this matter was over. No one spoke for Helian Yun. If the refining of the heaven-seizing pill ended at the time of the black medicinal dregs, maybe Deng Ya and Zhu Peng would help to ask for some favors, but now, no one could say anything, and they were not qualified to say anything. He Lianyun wanted to beg for mercy, but it was useless to beg Wuxiong unless Yang Chen was willing to speak. But to make a nascent soul realm alchemist beg for mercy from a junior who had just reached the foundation building realm not long ago, it would be better to kill He Lianyun. Looking at Yang Chen calmly waiting, even though He Lianyun had already clenched his fists so tightly that the veins on his body were exposed, he still did not say a single word to Yang Chen to beg for mercy. Handing over the fire seed required the cooperation of the person involved. Otherwise, no matter how high one's cultivation base was, it would be impossible to seize the other party's fire seed. It would only extinguish the fire seed with the other party's death. If He Lianyun wanted to renege on his debt, Wuxiong would have no other way but to kill him. The problem was that He Lianyun was absolutely unwilling to die for this reason, especially in the hands of Wuxiong, who had already given up everything to ascend. So He Lianyun could only obediently hand over the fire seed. In addition to the embarrassment of being forced to hand over the fire seed, the other people had never seen the process of handing over the fire seed and the consequences after handing it over, so they deliberately asked for He Lianyun's consent and watched from the side, which made He Lianyun feel even more humiliated. Yes, He Lianyun felt humiliated, especially when other people were throwing stones at him when he was down. God knew that Deng Ya and Zhu Peng were completely curious about the alchemist. But He Lianyun also hated the two of them. However, on this occasion, He Lianyun did not dare to make any moves. Not to mention that Wuxiong was on the side, even if it was one-on-one. He, as an alchemist, was not the opponent of any of the others, except for Yang Chen. Unfortunately, at this time, who would allow him to hurt a single hair of Yang Chen? Therefore, poor He Lianyun could only fulfill his bet under the gaze of everyone, at the moment when Wuxiong got the heaven-seizing pill and needed to celebrate. He Lianyun really wanted to not have to pay anything, but this was impossible. But he still wanted to retain a little of his pride as a Yuanying stage senior in front of Yang Chen. After looking at Yang Chen with resentment for a long time, He Lianyun forced out his fire seed. The great pain of stripping away the fire seed and the great shame of being watched made He Lianyun faint directly at the last moment. After the fire seed was stripped away, his cultivation base plummeted. His Yuanying, which had already been condensed, dissipated directly because of this, falling to the Jedon realm in front of everyone, and it was only the early Jedon realm. The Sun True Fire was indeed one of the most powerful fire seeds in the mortal world. In his previous life, Yang Chen relied on the Sun True Fire to ascend in one fell swoop and then ascended. Now, He Lianyun, who had lost the Sun True Fire, actually fell directly by a big realm. The meaning contained in this also made Deng Ya, Zhu Peng and others very vigilant. In the future, even if they were beaten to death, they could not casually gamble with others on fire seeds. Similarly, it was best not to do things like snatching other people's fire seeds, especially never gamble with Yang Chen on anyone's fire seed. On an oil lamp engraved with a complex seal array, the Sun True Fire was burning quietly on the wick. If one didn't know, no one would believe that the bean-sized flame was the world-famous Sun True Fire. This oil lamp-like thing was refined by Wuxiong, and it was refined before he started refining the heaven-seizing pill. It was a magic weapon specially used to preserve the Sun True Fire seed. Although Wuxiong was not a fire cultivator, he could still easily refine such a magic weapon. This also fully showed that from the beginning, Wuxiong had never thought of letting go of He Lianyun. After all, He Lianyun's performance at the beginning really did not give Wuxiong any face. Of course, it could not be ruled out that Wuxiong had thought of a solution from the beginning. This oil lamp, which preserved the Sun True Fire seed, was covered and sent to Yang Chen's hands. After feeding He Lianyun a medicinal pill, He Lianyun quickly woke up, but the way he looked at Wuxiong and Yang Chen seemed to be a little different from the past. "Little friend Yang, what do you mean by congenital deficiency?" After everyone recovered their spirits, Wuxiong asked the question that everyone wanted to know in front of Yang Chen. Chapter 164. The problem is still in the pill spirit. Yang Chen has no reservations about this. Anyway, everyone can guess a little bit of the reason. It is better to say it generously, I always feel that a weak pill spirit can't seize the heavens. This was the view that Yang Chen insisted on from the beginning, and it was proposed in the handling of the poisonous flood dragon pill spirit, but at that time, several alchemists insisted, and if the pill spirit was too strong with the strength of the three of them, it was impossible to effectively control and refine the pill spirit, so they adopted such a way of almost abandoning all the advantages. Now that this topic is mentioned again, it is obvious that it has touched the nerves of the three alchemists. Deng Ya, Zhu Peng and Helian Yun's faces are a little unbearable. Think. Wu Xiong was alert to catch Yang Chen's words and asked with some doubts, "You just think." Of course. Yang Chen smiled and asked Wu Xiong, "Elder Wu, you don't think that I really know everything about the heaven-seizing pill?" His words also made the three Yuanying stage alchemy masters. No, now it was two Yuanying stage alchemy masters and a Jedon stage alchemy master a little shocked. The kind of certainty that Yang Chen showed before, was it all based on speculation? Then why did you say that there was still hope before? Deng Ya had already asked in front of Wu Xiong. Zhu Ping just opened his mouth, but Deng Ya was the first to speak. Although she immediately closed her mouth, her eyes were the same doubts and expectations. Because the pill spirit is not dead, Yang Chen replied. At that time, because they couldn't condense Dan, everyone had lost confidence and all gave up. Only Yang Chen didn't. Perhaps this was where his confidence came from. Please forgive me for being presumptuous. What method did you use to condense Dan? Deng Ya rarely used the word please and apologized first before asking questions, which was very inconsistent with the image of her Yuanying stage senior, but at the moment no one felt that there was anything wrong with it. Condensing Dan? Yang Chen laughed. Actually, everything I did after that was to restore the power of the pill spirit. I didn't condense the pill at all. Everything is done before. When the pill spirit is strong enough, it will naturally condense the pill. I don't need to do anything. Now the three alchemists have basically guessed what method Yang Chen used, but on the basis of their failed dregs, let the pill spirit come back to life, and then with the help of everyone's spiritual power, restore the realm of the pill spirit to the most powerful time, and finally succeed in one fell swoop. Of course, everyone understood what Yang Chen meant by congenital deficiency. The weak pill spirit was nourished and restored by the powder of Yang Chen at the last moment, and the vigorous pill spirit at the beginning was naturally completely different. Although the heaven-seizing pill was successfully refined at the last moment, after all, it did not go through the wind tribulation, and it was still a step away from the perfect medicinal pill. No one could deny this. Looking at Yang Chen's appearance, Helian Yun felt a burst of unwillingness to admit defeat from the bottom of his heart. That kind of jealousy and dissatisfaction filled his heart. He couldn't see any Yang Chen's complacency. When Deng Ya finished asking, Helian Yun immediately couldn't wait to ask questions. You mean, all this is your guess? But you are very sure that there will be a pill tribulation? Of course, the medicinal pill that can make people ascend. If I don't cross the tribulation myself, how can I make people ascend? Yang Chen blurted out almost without hesitation. Yang Chen said it very neatly, so that Helian Yun couldn't seem to find any trouble. And now it was not an accusation, but a consultation. No matter what Yang Chen said, others couldn't question it. Just now, Helian Yun's question had already made Deng Ya and Wu Xiong frown. Don't misunderstand, I'm just very curious, Yang Chen. According to reason, you are a disciple of the Qi condensation stage, and you are only in the foundation establishment stage here. How can you know so many things? Helian Yun immediately changed the way he asked. His tone also became softer, and there was even a smile on his face. The things of the nascent soul stage and the Deshang stage, if I remember correctly, in any sect, with your cultivation, you can't come into contact with these things. Helian Yun's words also caused a few people to be puzzled. Yang Chen's performance was too eye-catching, so much so that they, the nascent soul stage ancestors, were compared to him. Even if they weren't puzzled now, they still had a strong curiosity. How could a disciple of the Qi condensation stage know so much? This is nothing. Unexpectedly, it was not Yang Chen who answered this question, but Wu Xiong. Little friend Yang's cultivation method is different from ours. When he was in the sect and had nothing to do, he memorized all the 100,000 jade slips in the scripture pavilion of their 9 Earth Mountain villa. Although he didn't come into contact with more advanced cultivation methods, he knows a lot of strange things. This old man chatted with him along the way, but I don't necessarily know as much as he does. This was thanks to Yang Chen's detailed conversation with Wu Xiong on the way. The knowledge he showed in his words was not inferior even to the experienced masters of those big sects, especially in some aspects that Wu Xiong was interested in. He was deeply favored by Wu Xiong. With this preconceived notion, Yang Chen knew a lot of things, and for Wu Xiong, it was not so incomprehensible. 100,000 jade slips? Memorize them? Several nascent soul stage and Jindan stage masters were directly dumbfounded. Which cultivator in this world didn't crazily pursue cultivation methods, medicinal pills, magic treasures, and spirit veins in order to improve their own cultivation base? Which idle person would memorize some strange things? Moreover, it was 100,000 books? No wonder Wu Xiong said that Yang Chen's way of cultivation was different from theirs. Not to mention anything else, just the person who could spend so much time was not something they could understand. In this way, there was a reason why Yang Chen knew so much. As soon as this idea came out, everyone's hearts suddenly trembled. Should they also turn over the strange things that had never been in their eyes before when they had nothing to do? It must be known that when Yang Chen was still in the qi refining stage, he showed a method of arranging formations with flames. So far, they were still far behind him. Could it be that he also got inspiration from these? There were not many problems. In fact, by now everyone had understood that the three alchemists were the ones who contributed the most to the heaven-seizing pill. Yang Chen just picked up a bargain at the last minute. Their mistake was only in the handling of the pill spirit. This result made everyone happy again. At least the reputation of refining the heaven-seizing pill would not be faded with them. Everyone, please rest for the time being. This old man will send little friend Yang back to the immortal falling abyss first. We will talk again when we come back. At this point, the refining of the heaven-seizing pill had come to an end. Wu Xiong began to settle down the heroes. Naturally, Yang Chen was ranked first. Chapter 165. Wu Xiong's promise to everyone was probably different, otherwise, he would not fulfill it individually. However, Yang Chen also suspected that maybe his performance this time was too special, leading to Wu Xiong suddenly did not know how to reward him, so he would now send him back alone. Of course, Wu Xiong sent Yang Chen away in such a hurry because he was afraid that a few people would use his power to force Yang Chen to say the formula of the powder he used to nourish the pill spirit. He was afraid that Yang Chen would have a disagreement with everyone, so he just finished refining and immediately sent Yang Chen away. The others would not leave alone without his instructions. Even if they wanted to leave, it would be after he settled down Yang Chen. To put it bluntly, the dozen or so layers of restrictions outside Wu Xiong Villa were not something that those people could break easily. Wu Xiong did not want Yang Chen to help him refine the heaven-seizing pill, but in the end he would end up being chased by the world. The reputation of those alchemists in the hearts of the mortal cultivators could really make people do it. On the heaven-escaping shuttle, Yang Chen and Wu Xiong were still sitting on both sides of the small table. Both of them were holding a cup of Wu Xiong's black tea in their hands, enjoying it. Little friend Yang, I don't know how to thank you now. After enjoying a cup of tea, Wu Xiong put down the teacup and smiled at Yang Chen. If it weren't for you at the end, not to mention refining the heaven-seizing pill, my state of mind might have been affected now. In the future, when I ascend, I will die on the spot. I can't repay the life-saving grace. Good people have their own blessings. Elder Wu, this is your flood of good fortune, it has nothing to do with me. Yang Chen waved his hand and did not take credit for it. Wu Xiong himself was a super master in the spiritual world in Yang Chen's memory of his previous life. At that time, he had never heard that Wu Xiong ascended by relying on the heaven-seizing pill, so Wu Xiong's life-saving grace, Yang Chen would not recognize it. Speaking of which, Yang Chen had gained a lot this time. The purification and refinement of the supreme-grade jadeite Xianxia had directly allowed Yang Chen to step into the foundation establishment stage, and the overall yin-yang 5 elemental spell had been upgraded by 1 level. In the final refining process of the heaven-seizing pill, the huge spiritual energy and medicinal power directly upgraded the profound spirit furnace to another grade, directly from the low-grade magic weapon to the ranks of the middle-grade magic weapon. That was not all. He had made a bet with Helian Yun and actually obtained Helian Yun's solar true fire. In his previous life, the solar true flame that Yangchen was most familiar with was definitely 10 times stronger than Helian Yun's. As long as it absorbed the sun true fire, the quality of the profound spirit furnace could be directly improved, and Yangchen's cultivation would definitely rise. The biggest gain was not these, but the reputation of Yangchen's successful refining of the heaven-seizing pill. With this reputation, it meant that Yangchen's reputation as an alchemist master that had been operating before was completely established. In the future, there would be countless masters who would come to Yangchen for a high-level medicinal pill, and Yangchen's safety would be more guaranteed. As for Chunyang Palace, it would definitely treat Yangchen as the most core disciple to cultivate. At that time, what Chu Heng, even if it was Chu Heng's master, could not touch Yangchen's hair. A good man is blessed by the heavens, he. Wu Xiong shook his head and smiled bitterly. If it is really a good man, the heaven-seizing pill should have been successfully refined in the beginning, rather than you remedied it later. Actually, with all due respect, there are ups and downs, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. Yangchen quietly took over Wu Xiong's words. At this moment, Elder Wu, whether there is a heaven-seizing pill or not, does it make any difference to you, senior? When it came to this, Wu Xiong's eyes suddenly lit up, flashing a kind of irrepressible light, as if he had seen through the soaring shuttle, and even through all the obstacles in front of him. Yes, it is indeed a big ups and downs, and there is light at the end of the tunnel, but how many people can understand the danger in it? The master was always lonely. Fortunately, there was now a person in front of Wu Xiong who could understand his mind. Although the cultivation between the two was thousands of miles apart, it did not affect Wu Xiong's more and more pleasing to the eye to Yangchen, and the more they talked, the more they got along. Especially Yangchen's last sentence, it was simply the most wonderful flattery. You are right, Wu Xiong said with a smile. I already understand what the wind tribulation is like. At this moment, it doesn't matter to me whether there is a heaven-seizing pill or not. Congratulations, senior. Yangchen cupped his hands and made a congratulatory gesture to Wu Xiong. Elder Wu can ascend without relying on any opportunistic tricks. In the future, you will be able to dominate the spiritual realm. This was not Yangchen flattering. Things in cultivation were like this. The more one did not rely on external things to improve their realm, the more powerful they would be after their realm improved. Now that Wu Xiong had such confidence, his achievements should be higher than what Yangchen remembered. Thank you for your auspicious words. Wu Xiong also cupped his hands and thanked him, then smiled at Yangchen and said, I didn't know how to thank you, little friend, but now your words have reminded me. With that, a jade box appeared on the table between the two. This is a small token of my appreciation. As he spoke, Wu Xiong pushed the jade box to Yangchen. Little friend Yang, please don't refuse. This jade box was simply the jade box that was sealed by Wu Xiong after the heaven-seizing pill passed the pill tribulation. What was inside was the heaven-seizing pill wrapped in layers of talismans. Now Wu Xiong directly gave the heaven-seizing pill to Yangchen as a thank-you gift for refining the heaven-seizing pill this time. Yangchen looked at Wu Xiong with some surprise, but Wu Xiong smiled and pushed the jade box closer. The smile on his face was sincere, without any reluctance. Instead, there was a kind of enlightenment like liberation. Since the elder has given me a gift, Yangchen will accept it. After thinking about it, Yangchen nodded and put the jade box into the Qiankuan bag. After putting it away, he cupped his hands at Wu Xiong again. Congratulations, senior, for breaking free from the cage and gaining freedom. This was not Yangchen's aimless words. Wu Xiong's previous thoughts were indeed somewhat persistent on the heaven-seizing pill. This could be seen from Wu Xiong's performance when the refining of the heaven-seizing pill failed. Now Wu Xiong was not only full of confidence, but he also had no reluctance to leave the heaven-seizing pill. From this point, from the moment Wu Xiong pushed the heaven-seizing pill over, Wu Xiong had indeed walked out of the obsession of the heaven-seizing pill. Yangchen's congratulations were just right, and it was almost exactly the state of Wu Xiong at the moment. What was a bosom friend drinking wine? What was a congenial conversation? This was it. Suddenly, Wuxiong felt that the world was big, but at this moment, only this young man in front of him was his greatest bosom friend. His joy, his depression, his constraints, his relief, all of it Yang Chen understood. It was really a regrettable thing to be able to meet such an interesting little friend before ascending. Chapter 166. I can't help you too much in the mortal world. At most, I can only suppress Hellion Yun. At this moment, Wuxiong has regarded Yang Chen as a close friend who can communicate with him on an equal footing, and his speech was much more casual. One day when little brother ascends to the spiritual world, you must come to find this old brother. Hellion Yun's resentment towards Yang Chen, how could Wuxiong not find it? The reason why he took Hellion Yun's fire seed after the refining was precisely because of this consideration. Moreover, he had his own arrangements for the future, at least to ensure that when Yang Chen grew to the same realm as Hellion Yun would absolutely not be able to move against Yang Chen. Thank you for your guidance, elder brother. Yang Chen directly changed the way he addressed Wuxiong, but Wuxiong did not feel offended, but laughed happily. If someone could hear the address between the two at this moment, they would definitely be shocked and speechless. Elder Wuxiong, who was about to ascend in the Deshang stage, actually called Yang Chen little brother intimately and called himself elder brother. Not to mention anything else, just this seniority was enough to make 99% of the cultivators in the mortal world feel ashamed. I promised to find a fire seed for Hellion Yun. If little brother is worried that he will be threatened by the fire seed, I might as well do some tricks. With this exchange between the two, Wuxiong did not regard Yang Chen as an outsider and directly began to plan for Yang Chen. As a master of the Deshang stage, it was too easy for Hellion Yun, who was now only in the early Jidan stage. No need. Yang Chen shook his head directly like a rattle drum. I will do what I should do. I am still waiting for the time to grab his fire seed. Elder brother, don't ruin my good deeds. These words were really arrogant, but after thinking about it carefully, one had to admit that Yang Chen had a reason to be arrogant. Not everyone could participate in the refining of the heaven-seizing pill at the qi refining stage, and even more not everyone could successfully refine the heaven-seizing pill when they had just reached the foundation establishment stage. Yang Chen had such achievements now, and his future prospects were even more limitless. How could he be compared to Hellion Yun, who was jealous of the talented and narrow-minded? Little brother's way of doing things is really to my liking. In that case, I won't meddle in your affairs, lest I ruin your plans. Wuxiong laughed heartily and said no more. He changed the topic. What do you plan to do next, little brother? Stay in the immortal falling abyss for a few more years? I remember that including alchemy, you only stayed in the immortal falling abyss for a little more than 7 years. According to reason, you can still stay for another 3 years. No. Yang Chen shook his head and said, I only came to the immortal fallen abyss to gain experience. Now that I've successfully reached foundation establishment, there's no meaning in staying in the immortal fallen abyss anymore. I will return to the sect and learn from my master. Wuxiong listened with black lines on his forehead. With Yang Chen's current vision and means, did he still need to learn from a master? But he had to admit that Yang Chen's words were very reasonable. If he succeeded in reaching foundation establishment, he would naturally become an inner sect disciple, and presumably the sect would also greatly nurture him. Although Wuxiong had the intention to nurture him, he was after all just a loose cultivator, and his attributes were different from Yang Chen's. What was suitable for Wuxiong might not necessarily be suitable for Yang Chen. He also didn't know that Yang Chen had all 5 elements. As a loose cultivator, Wuxiong naturally knew the benefits of a big sect. There was nothing wrong with Yang Chen's approach. On the contrary, it was a very wise choice. In that case, how about I simply send you back to the sect? Wuxiong asked after listening to Yang Chen's words. With him personally sending him back, Chunyang Palace would naturally look at Yang Chen in a different light. It could also be considered as indirectly helping Yang Chen with a small favor. Let's go back to Immortal Falling Abyss first. Yang Chen didn't directly agree. I still have some things to do in Immortal Falling Abyss, and there are also some grievances that I have to personally resolve. It won't be too late to return to the sect after I resolve them. Do you need my help? Wu Xiong didn't regard Yang Chen as an outsider and directly asked. A few Foundation establishment opponents, how could they be worthy of Elder Brother's help? Yang Chen laughed involuntarily and shook his head. Wouldn't that be lowering Elder Brother's prestige? In that case, Elder Brother won't say anything more. Wu Xiong thought about it and agreed. With Yang Chen's reputation in Immortal Falling Abyss, as long as he moved his mouth, he believed that countless people would be willing to resolve grievances for Yang Chen. If he made a move, it would be unavoidable that he would have a reputation of bullying the weak. However, Wu Xiong didn't ignore Yang Chen just like that. After thinking for a while, he took out a Qianquan bag and handed it to Yang Chen. You've just reached Foundation establishment and entered the inner sect. Elder Brother doesn't have anything to give you. You've just reached Foundation establishment, so you probably don't have a flying sword yet. Wu Xiong thought about it thoroughly and pointed to the Qianquan bag. There's a flying sword here. I killed a fire cultivator back then. Go back and see if it's suitable for you. Consider it my congratulatory gift to you for reaching Foundation establishment. In addition, since you've entered the inner sect, you'll probably be assigned a cave residence soon. Before Yang Chen had time to decline, Wu Xiong had already continued. There are also 100,000 5-element spirit marrow here. When the time comes, you can set it up in your cave residence and it can also give you more spirit energy for cultivation. Seeing that Yang Chen still wanted to decline, Wu Xiong waved his hand. There's no need to decline. I can still give you these things. Moreover, after ascending, I won't need them, so it's better to fulfill your wish. Yang Chen smiled bitterly. He didn't decline anymore and directly accepted it. To be honest, these things were of little value to Yang Chen. There weren't too many, but there weren't too few. However, Wu Xiong's kindness made Yang Chen feel warm. In the future, when you cultivate, it's best to hide your strength and bide your time. It's not good to be too ostentatious. What followed was Wu Xiong's earnest advice. Safety is the most important thing. No matter how amazing a genius is, without his life, he's just a handful of dirt. Little brother, don't blame me for being too talkative. You have the heaven-seizing pill, so ascending is not a problem. It's not worth risking your life. These were priceless advice. Yang Chen nodded as he listened. Regardless of whether he would follow this in the future, he still had to thank Wu Xiong for his kindness. Although Chunyang Palace is not a first-class sect, it's not weak. After talking about Yang Chen, he began to talk about the sect that Yang Chen was in. Remember to use the power of the sect when there's something. It's much more advantageous than when I was alone in the past. Other than nodding, Yang Chen could only nod. Wu Xiong completely treated him as a descendant. This kind of kindness was not something that ordinary people could enjoy. Phew! Finally, Wu Xiong let out a long breath and said with a smile, "Then I'll wait for little brother in the spiritual realm to ascend as soon as possible. We've arrived at the immortal falling abyss. You can go now." Unknowingly, the soaring shuttle had already arrived at the separation village in the immortal falling abyss. Chapter 167. When they set off from Fallen Village, it took at least a day for the soaring shuttle to arrive at the villa where Wu Xiong was refining medicine, but when they came back, they only chatted for a while and tasted a few cups of tea. From this point of view, Wu Xiong had already gained great benefits in this alchemy. Wu Xiong did not show up in Fallen Village, but directly put Yang Chen next to Yang Chen's hut in Fallen Village. With Wu Xiong's cultivation, no one found out. At most, everyone could only feel that Yang Chen suddenly appeared there like a ghost. Yang Chen returned to the immortal falling abyss. It was indeed to settle his grievances. Of those who were waiting to kill him on the other side of the magma lake, only Peng Hui and another guy who was killed by Yang Chen had been punished. The others were still free. Wanting to know the identity of these people was simply a piece of cake for Yang Chen. He didn't know how many people wanted to use various methods to get close to Yang Chen and please Yang Chen. It was just the identity of a few Foundation establishment stage cultivators. They didn't need to do it themselves and they wouldn't reveal their identity at will. Who would miss this kind of good thing? As early as when Yang Chen left Fallen Village with Elder Wu Xiong, the identity of those people had already been figured out. These people, Yang Chen would never let go. They were at most at the peak of the foundation establishment stage. None of them could reach the core condensation stage, at least not in the past 10 years. With Yang Chen's eyesight, he would never make a mistake. Yang Chen was going to block them in Li Luo village and find them one by one. Anyway, Wu Xiong and Elder Wu would not appear in the immortal falling abyss. Of course, Yang Chen had to solve their grievances in the immortal falling abyss. In addition, Yang Chen had one more thing to do, or several things. After the success of the foundation establishment stage, the profound spirit furnace and the sword sheath did not have time to be more sacrificial refined. It just happened to be a good sacrificial refining during this time in Fallen Village. Just as Yang Chen released his divine sense outside his hut, he suddenly heard a surprised voice. "Is it Grandmaster Yang?" Then, a figure ran over in a hurry. After seeing that it was Yang Chen, he couldn't help but shout happily, "Master Yang is back! Master Yang is back!" This news caused a stir in Separation Village. It had been close to 4 years since Elder Wu Xiong had taken Yang Chen away. Now, Yang Chen had suddenly appeared in Separation Village unscathed. What did this mean? It showed that the matter of Elder Wu had been completed. The most important thing was that Yang Chen had completed the commission of Elder Wu Xiong of the Deshang stage. No one was blind. Yang Chen had already entered the foundation establishment realm. Everyone could see this. After following Elder Wu for only a few years, he had gone from the advanced Qi refining stage to the early foundation establishment stage. If it was not to satisfy Elder Wu, how could he help Yang Chen like this? What Elder Wu wanted to do, Yang Chen had done, which also meant that Yang Chen's ability had been recognized by Elder Wu. Moreover, now that Yang Chen was in the early foundation establishment stage, the consequence of the improvement of his strength meant that Yang Chen could refine more medicinal pills. Many people still remembered that Yang Chen said that after leaving the immortal falling abyss, there would be a third-grade medicinal pill. Now that his cultivation had improved, was it possible? I want to find the whereabouts of a few people. Yang Chen did not hide his purpose and said directly, "I want them to return to Separation Village and I will know the news." As for the reward, the opportunity to refine a second-grade foundation establishment pill. After that, Yang Chen said the identity of those people one by one. Grandmaster Yang had been looking for these guys for a long time. This was no longer a secret in Separation Village. Now that the old matter was brought up again, coupled with the fact that Yang Chen's cultivation had improved, how could everyone not know what Yang Chen wanted to do? No one would have any opinion about this. They could only blame those guys for offending Grandmaster Yang for no reason. Some people had already indirectly understood that it seemed that a few years ago, those people actually besieged and chased Grandmaster Yang. Not to mention that this was in the immortal falling abyss, which was considered a violation of the rules of the immortal falling abyss. Just the fact that they were chasing him made many people feel indignant. It was just that Grandmaster Yang had not asked them to help him before, so no one dared to act rashly. Once Grandmaster Yang wanted to take revenge himself, it would not be good for them to do it for him. Now that Yang Chen actually used the opportunity to refine a second-grade foundation establishment pill in exchange for the whereabouts of those people, some people were overjoyed. I know. One by one, the guys raised their hands in high spirits and squeezed to the front under the envious eyes of a group of people. Under Yang Chen's invitation, they followed Yang Chen into Yang Chen's hut and did not know what was said. No one dared to use their spiritual awareness to explore. After waiting for a while, they saw someone come out with a smile on their face, and even their footsteps were a little light. Needless to say, they had all gotten benefits. When they thought of the benefits that a second-grade foundation establishment pill could bring to themselves, even these guys who had all reached the foundation establishment stage could not help but covet it. No matter what happened, everyone had an extra eye. As long as they found traces of those guys, they would immediately come back to tell Yang Chen. After sending off a group of ecstatic guys, Yang Chen arranged a small warning array outside his hut, and then stayed in the hut, intending to sacrifice the profound spirit furnace and the sword sheath. Except for Wu Xiong, no one dared to kill people in Separation Village, so Yang Chen was very relieved. The warning array was only to remind himself when someone was going to have news. After arranging everything, Yang Chen took out the profound spirit furnace and began to look at it carefully. After the influence of the heaven-seizing pill, the profound spirit furnace was now almost completely turned into a kind of cyan color, and after upgrading the grade again, it was no longer the original treasure light, but began to evolve in the direction of introversion. The Yin and Yang 5 elements secret art has been upgraded to the level of the 9th level of Qi refining. The previous Heavenly Spirit Treasure Refining Secret Art and Earth Fiend Sacrificial Formation Secret Art are all fire attributes, and they were sacrificially refined to the level of the Heavenly Spirit 4th layer and the Earth Fiend 6th layer. In the next sacrificial refining, Yang Chen directly used the Yin and Yang 5 elements secret art to refine the profound spirit furnace again. The treasure light of the profound spirit furnace was once again condensed, and the spiritual power of Yang Chen's Yin and Yang 5 elements secret art has been improved again. It was also the Heavenly Spirit 4th layer and the Earth Fiend 6th layer, but it was very different from the previous only fire attribute spiritual power improvement. His whole body was overflowing with spiritual power, so that Yang Chen suddenly had a strong urge to vent. For almost 4 years, he had not fought with people, and his body had a feeling of rusting. Now Yang Chen wished that the guys he was looking for would appear in front of him immediately, and let them taste the taste of chasing them after he reached the foundation stage. However, before that, Yang Chen must first sacrifice the sword sheath, which was the guy he used to kill people. Chapter 168. The flying sword given by Wu Xiong was in Yang Chen's hands at the moment. It had to be said that Wu Xiong was very thoughtful for Yang Chen. This fire attribute flying sword, apart from the guardian sword array of the medicine garden, was definitely the highest grade flying sword that Yang Chen had seen since his rebirth. Not only that, the original flying sword's spiritual awareness had already been wiped clean, and there were no restrictions or anything like that at all. As long as Yang Chen imprinted his own spiritual awareness, with Yang Chen's current foundation stage cultivation base, he could definitely carry out sacrificial refining. Unfortunately, with Yang Chen's vision, he still saw some flaws in this flying sword. When he was in the Jedon stage, he might be able to dominate with a sword, but after entering the Yuanying stage, no matter how much sacrificial refining, he could not refine the flying sword to the top. Perhaps Wu Xiong was giving him a weapon that could defend himself before he had a flying sword, and did not think too much about it. Of course, Yang Chen would not use this flying sword as the sword soul of the sword sheath, but put it in the sword sheath and treated it as an ordinary flying sword. Yang Chen now has an arrangement for the sword soul, but it will take a long time to collect and refine it. At this moment, of course, there is no need to consider the problem of the sword soul. After Yang Chen re-refined the sword sheath with the Yin-Yang 5 elements secret art, the Heavenly Spirit Treasure Refining secret art and the Earth Fiend Sacrificial Formation secret art, the sword sheath that looked like the immortal beheading sword seemed to have begun to change in a more simple direction. Unlike the profound spirit furnace, the sword sheath itself was refined by a master of the peak Jedon stage. From the beginning, the grade was much higher. Now it had become the peak of the middle-grade magic weapon in Yang Chen's mind. In addition to sacrificial refining, Yang Chen always had a kind of expectation. He was now a master of the foundation stage. After returning to the sect, he would immediately become an inner sect disciple, and the next step was to become an apprentice. At the thought of seeing his master's face soon, Yang Chen had an uncontrollable ecstasy. However, Yang Chen still resisted the urge to return to the sect immediately, but calmed down and patiently waited for the news of those people. From the Qingquan bag of Peng Hui and another guy who was killed by Yang Chen found a compass that could be used to indicate Yang Chen's position. With Yang Chen's ability, it could be determined that this compass could only find Yang Chen's Qingquan bag, but the Qingquan bags of other pure Yang Palace disciples could not be found. This could only explain one thing, that from the moment he got the Qingquan bag of other Chunyang Palace could not. He had received the Cosmos bag at the Yeshio Manor, and Wang Yuan had personally delivered it to him. Yang Chen had the sword Qin and only he had the ability, and only Yang Chen could had the opportunity and had the opportunity. That had obtained Yang Chenku and Yang Chen. Only Chu Heng, the disciple, would have the opportunity and ability to do something. Even Sun Haijing could not. Chu Heng had schemed against him time and time again, so Yang Chen would not let him off. However, Yang Chen did not want to be accused of harming a fellow disciple before or right after becoming his disciple. Thus, he could only gather enough evidence and let the sect rules deal with him. It wasn't that Yang Chen couldn't find an opportunity to kill Chu Heng in a secluded place, but how could that be more refreshing than Chu Heng being convicted and then expelled from the sect, where he had nowhere to go and then executed? After refining everything, Yang Chen slowly waited for the news of those people. Someone had already told him that a few of them had left the immortal falling abyss. Since they had left, Yang Chen could only wait. However, Yang Chen did not intend to let those who remained in the immortal falling abyss go. No one could be like Yang Chen and not return to Separated Village for half a year. They would have to return to Separated Village to replenish their supplies in 3 months at most. What Yang Chen blocked was the opportunity for them to return to the immortal falling abyss. Unfortunately, even if Yang Chen's luck was so good that it defied the heavens, it seemed that good luck did not come this time. When Yang Chen, plus the refining of the profound spirit furnace and the sword sheath, waited for at least 3 months, he did not see a guy he hoped to appear. Feeling that something was wrong, Yang Chen directly took out a second-grade essence cultivating pill, and then he got the news of those people from the mouth of a guy who was on duty in Separated Village. The disciple on duty did not eat Yang Chen's trick. Because of Jin Tao's previous influence, he did not like Yang Chen very much. Even if Yang Chen was a promising alchemist, he did not intend to curry favor with him. But in the end, he could not bear the favor of others and a second-grade essence cultivating pill, and told the whereabouts of those people. Those people had all left the immortal falling abyss a year ago, and they left when the disciple on duty was on duty. At that time, they left very secretly, and no one knew except this disciple. They are lucky. After Yang Chen got the news, he did not have too much chagrin. Even if those people went out, they could not escape the fate of being hunted down. He believed that as long as Yang Chen casually took out a few second-grade foundation establishment pills, there would be people who wanted to bring those people's heads to exchange with Yang Chen. It was just that in this way, he did not personally cut off their heads to let Yang Chen vent his hatred. Since there was no point in waiting, Yang Chen decisively decided to leave the immortal falling abyss and return to Chunyang Palace. At the moment, he did not stay much and directly found the disciple on duty and returned directly to the ground through the formation of the immortal falling abyss. Yang Chen, who was eager to return home, had just walked less than 50 miles from the entrance of the immortal falling abyss when he felt several murderous auras coming towards him. After probing with his divine sense, Yang Chen's face immediately showed a happy smile. Wearing out iron shoes in fruitless search, finding it by chance without even looking for it. Yang Chen stood there and laughed. Following Yang Chen's laughter, at least a dozen people surrounded him. 7 of them were clearly the people who chased Yang Chen in the magma lake back then. Yang Chen did not know the others, but presumably they were their helpers. I didn't expect an early chi refining fellow to succeed in foundation establishment in just a few years in the immortal falling abyss. The leader was the guy who chased Yang Chen at the beginning. He looked at Yang Chen with an ashen face and a ferocious expression. All these years, because of you, we have to be careful everywhere in the immortal falling abyss. Fellow Daoist Yang, you can be proud of a junior disciple like you for being able to do this. However, if you don't die, we won't be able to eat or sleep in peace in the future, so we can only send you on your way. I've been waiting for you in the immortal falling abyss for 3 whole months, but I didn't expect you to be waiting for me outside. Yang Chen faced the sky and laughed loudly. Very good, very good. It's the same to settle things outside. After saying this, Yang Chen stretched out his hand and the beheading immortal blade appeared in Yang Chen's hand. Dragging the blade, Yang Chen's gaze swept over the dozen people surrounding him. After looking at them one by one, he once again said, "Every injustice has its perpetrator, every debt has its debtor. We have no past grievances nor enmity, but you chased me first, so don't blame me for taking your lives. Welcome to Legends of Cultivation audiobooks, where we bring ancient fantasy to life through storytelling. Follow the rise of heroes who defy fate, unlock mystical powers, and battle across celestial realms. Our audiobooks are crafted for fans of Chinese cultivation novels, filled with battles, breakthroughs, and legendary artifacts. Subscribe and be part of an unforgettable journey into the realm of immortality.